Hi. So I think I'm gonna do two more videos before I fuck off for the day and do my daily walk and then basically go chill with some shady guys in order to get some information about what's happening. For those who don't know, there's a war happening on our border and every embassy in Lebanon has been emptied out. So you can't trust news because all of them are biased everywhere around the world. So the best way to get your information is from the streets, from the people that actually could get armed once push comes to shove. I don't have a gun. I've never actually held a gun in my hand. I've never actually dealt with it. Well, almost everyone in my neighborhood has had some form of training. So best make friends with those guys so that if the time comes, yay. Now, this video is cute. Uh, how do you apologize to people when you didn't really do something wrong, but you yourself know you could have done something in a different way that didn't trigger something or wouldn't trigger something. And that's something I've been dealing with myself for a while. See, I have a very, very strong relationship with my dad, where I'm able to talk to him about anything and it's perfectly fine. Where I don't feel judgment and I don't feel him shutting off. He can get exhausted because after 10, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, sometimes the conversation you can get wait, wait, I need to breathe, I need to do something. And I have a tendency to do that because I ask questions and I wait for them to answer, and then I can ask more questions, and then I elaborate on my side. And eventually, there's a lot of thoughts that are kind of sifting through at once, and some people just consume a lot of energy just processing them. So I've been trying my best to kind of figure out a better way to approach people. And naturally, I read books about these things. I engage with them a certain kind of way. And the ideal way to approach things is normally to just be the kind of person that actually objectively always has a neutral stance. It's a better way to explain it. And so I was having a conversation with a friend, and she was telling me about her kid and basically how their relationship is basically amazing when he's calm, and when he's not calm, he kind of gets on her nerves and it gets too much. And these are basically symptoms of a spoiled brat. I want what I want it now. And there's nothing they can do. He's 11 years old. So she was telling me about an incident where she was super frustrated from him to a point where she just and he just wouldn't budge. He kept annoying her, annoying her, annoying her. And my response to her was how I would respond to things. And I was like, you have to create boundaries, and you create boundaries by not reflecting on him. Because if you care about somebody, you kind of always reflecting on how would you look at this. But more this is what I want, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through. You're gonna have to respect that, whether you like it or not, or else things are gonna change drastically and it's gonna be horrible. And ultimately, we had a conversation, and she basically shuts up. As I'm kind of explaining my point or what I would do, she kind of went into her I'm thinking phase, or maybe you're right, or maybe you're not right. I don't know. I thought we were just having a conversation, everything was cool. But then later on at night, when I was sitting by myself, my mind brought it up for some fucking reason. And the first thing I thought of was holy shit, man, who am I to kind of be having these opinions when I know nothing about what she's going through? And instantly it starts rallying, it starts picking different things, it starts calling for different things and picking different scenarios from the past where these kinds of engagements were existent, and kind of put me in a place where I could actually where I offended people, or where people got hurt, or where people just ended up feeling some kind of way. And sometimes you can do nothing wrong, and people will just build on a certain image in order to justify their lack. But it wasn't your place to actually point it out to begin with. So when people just decide to be like, what you did was wrong, and even though you didn't do anything wrong, it's the way you said it probably triggered them. And instead of actually saying something, even though you might have said something that would support them or would be good advice or just be a good different option to consider and think about, even though those could be actual legitimate cases, if you say it the wrong way, it would not reach them. In fact, if anything, it like sometimes gives you negative feedback and makes them even more stuck in their own loop because their emotions are taking over. So these things started popping in my head, and I started kind of like, I rolled with it for like 30 minutes. And then the one thing that basically made me feel better was like, okay, so if I'm not going to be able to see her for another day. So I wrote down on my calendar, it was like, apologize to her. And when I did that, like my mind kind of like went, but then how do you apologize for something that didn't necessarily happen? And then that's where I stopped kind of like having the whole ideas kind of roll as like, well, how could you do this, or what did you do, or what could you have done differently? It started becoming, if I were to apologize, how would I have apologized? And a couple of scenarios went through my head, and then I basically highlighted two of them. It was like one of the scenarios is, listen, I'm sorry about yesterday. I didn't mean to have to say the things that I did. And the other one was, I realized that yesterday I was talking out of, could have been talking out of place. And the things that I talked about, I have no place to say them because I don't have any children and I don't understand what it's like to actually have an annoying person right next to you and somebody you care about and you love, and like, so, like I want to spend quality time with you, but you're being such a bitch. I've felt this way for a lot of people. Uh, it pisses me off. I don't fucking care. Like, I really love kids and I really love like engaging with them and everything like this. But I love them when they're actually just not being, I don't want to say not being kids. I love them when they understand that they're a person and other people are a person. And I don't think parents take the actual time to explain that to kids because they live in their own world and everything included in their own world is something tangible to them. And I don't necessarily know how to kind of like create that limitation. But a big part of me is still a fucking kid at heart. And I love like just engaging with all kinds of activities. And when my cousin's daughter is around, she's like, I'm always with her. But even when she's like trying to do something that might hurt her or something like this, I don't engage with her the way her mom does. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't repeat, it's not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen. I kind of like allow something to happen and then use that as a learning experience. I try my best to kind of like, I don't know, I try to do things differently, but I don't have any of my own. So these are all like brief interactions with these mini humans. And very much so, like my apology was more like, no, I could have been out of line. I know I shouldn't have said some of the things I said or the way I said them, sorry. And lucky for me, the response was very positive. She's like, you don't have to apologize. What you said was amazing. I had a conversation with him when she went back home. She had a conversation with him and she kind of like established some rules and she discussed it deeply with him where she's like, no, you can't do this because I won't like you anymore. But then after that, like, we continued a normal conversation and each of us like went their own way. But for me, it was that glitch where I kind of like lost myself and forgot that I have no clue what the other person might be going through, which triggered my thought process. And how do we engage with ourselves so that we don't have to feel like we need to kind of apologize for ourselves? A lot of people would say, just don't care, man, fuck it, let them deal with it. But the reality is, how you engage with one person is exactly the same as how you engage with others. And that's the same you that's engaging with all of them, except like you're showing different parts of you. So if I want to establish a base that's kind of like strong on all accords that notices these things early on, then ultimately anytime I feel like some form of like guilt or anxiety or some form of like something is off. That's the time where I need to reflect more mostly on myself before I reflect on what it is that the others could have taken. So how would I do that? It just started popping into my head, and I figured if I actually like openly talk about it between me and myself, which is what I'm doing right now, I'd be able to like understand more why it meant something to me. And even though like I didn't say anything wrong, but she, I had no idea what she was going through, and whatever I said could have like actually made her feel bad when she shouldn't have. And simply because I was being me without understanding how she was being her. It's funny because every individual has their own fucking story, and you can't be a part of all their stories, but you could be like a part of yourself could actually engage in a way where even if you're not a part of their stories, they could still want to listen to you, and they could still like not necessarily feel anything if you actually like when you're actually speaking about something that happened with them or something that they relate to or something that they're like deeply involved in. Maintaining that neutral like understanding, I think, is something very interesting in human nature. And I really think it's important, especially for growth, because then the less opinionated you are, the more harmonious you are in your conversations, and the more you kind of express without actually having to kind of like deeply form a certain like side in the conversation and be like, I don't know, I want to say not, and the less aggressive you come out, the better it becomes for you to actually have a positive feedback and a positive impact. Yep, that's how I'm gonna end it. Thank you.